All right, this is the SE KOS-MOS, I believe, semifinals, 2023 edition, the first SE KOS-MOS edition. I'm going to be referring to this as a tour finals because that's how it's fit in my head. Is these are kind of, I mean, they're not at the end of the year, but kind of year-end type events of KOS-MOS and Kefka. Rewarding, you qualify by having done well in tournaments throughout the year. And if you did really well in those tournaments, you get a first round bye, which is very nice. Deli earned a first round bye by being one of the top two performers in TTA GBs this year and beat Akiyama in the quarterfinals. Yevon, on the other hand, who was the 3 seed overall, he had the third best overall GB showings, defeated Addy in the first round, Sleeping Ninja in the second round. The only win of the entire tournament where someone won both legs so far. Oh no, Deagle did as well. Deagle notably also in the semifinals. And yeah, our semifinalists are. Did Turds beat Vid today? I'm not sure. I think Turds is ahead against Vid. I'm not sure if the matchup's over. I should check, but I, probably will eventually. And Delial versus Yevon is this semifinal. It's a best of 3 format. It's going to be all closed. Delial lobbies his opponents to try to get a random open closed, but that was turned down. We have level 5, no same. I'm not sure what impact that will have. Like, from a general sense, right? We can't see the cards. If you can see the cards, it makes a lot of difference to you, right? If you have a card with a 7 to the left, you might think, okay, go in 9 or go in 3 and set up a same, and obviously that is not the case here. What it is likely to mean is more comboableness. Not a massive amount, but slightly more comboableness because sames minimize how much combos are available. Um, or like how far combos can go, right? Obviously, adding a rule makes it more likely you will combo, but removing same makes it more likely that the ways you use rules interact with ways where combos flip more cards through it. So, my suspicion is the primary difference this makes is, from a kind of viewer perspective, is we're more likely to see somewhat uncomfortable ways of capturing. This probably does help 5 starters. When seeing a 5 starter enclosed, I tend to look for a corner where I have nice combo play and try to set up stuff. And that nice combo play is obviously really helped by finding sames. And it's much quicker to find if you can look for sames, right? If you have a card with a 3 up, it's easy to go, okay, what does that have left or right? How can I set up a same in 8 for it? And so it's just much easier to scan for stuff like that. So I wonder if without same 5 starters in 5 become stronger than they normally would be enclosed. This seems possible. I'm completely, you know, thinking theoretically and have no kind of practical recent practice playing odd rule sets, and I mostly never did enclose, so I'm guesstimating here rather than displaying great knowledge or anything. You know, we're just saying things. That might mean that in this format, I tend to favor corners for center starters. There are certainly players that favor sides. I think Deli is pretty balanced between the two, which means I'm going to guess he plays in a side here. I think without Sam, corners are less appealing, and playing a matching side that minimizes combo later or a sliding side seems to me the more appealing option. Because I think in close, there are fundamentally kind of 4 types of moves that are pretty good. The sliding side, where you are weak to 5 and can set up combos through it. The matching side, where you make sure there's no combo potential and also make sure to direct the game up, down, or side to side in the way you prefer. The combo setting corner, or the directional corner, right? If you have 5 cards that go in 9, you chuck something in 1 just so you'll face the action, right? Okay, Deli slides. So he does go for one of our four types of reactions, and I did correctly predict that in this instance he would be more likely to go for a side play than a corner play. So I feel good about that call. Hey, I I provide some value occasionally, even in closed. Um, Now, if I'd seen 2 6 6 7 in my hand and same was on, I would have then immediately gone, okay, I can match that 7 by go in 6. So if I have a 2 down from 3 or a 6 up from 9, maybe I can set up nice stuff. Again, not viable on this set. It makes a lot of sense to me, at least, that Deli would go in a side here. Now, the main moves for Yevon to play in this structure are 1, 2, and 3. If you go in 7 or 9, I think it's too easy for Deli to lock in. Now, because the card in 8 is weak to 5, if you can get Deli to flip 5 at an opportune moment and combo back, that can be really good for you. But the 5s facing out are not that reliably comboable, and sometimes you get comboed back, so you have to pick your moment carefully. And the other thing is, it's pretty easy for Deli to play around 5 if he doesn't want to flip it with most cards. You never know his hand. But 5s and 7s facing out, if you don't want to flip those, you usually have a way not to. They're pretty high numbers. You can just, 3s and 4s and 5s are pretty regularly available and give you ways to not flip it. So I do not think this is a case where Yevon wants to kind of. I was watching a game between maybe the cloaked one and Seto the other day, where I thought Seto did everything right and he ended up losing 9-1 because there were just too many kind of forced spots to capture, and it happened to set up cloaked one well. And Seto was really unlucky about the way the kind of combo chain went. So yeah, I think 1, 2, or 3 are most likely. For me personally, the reason I don't like playing in 8 or playing in a side against a center starter is I really don't like to face moves into. And this move gives us a lot of information. This is a very interesting move because this specific card in 2 kind of tells us two things. One, Yevon is comfortable taking 6s going right. Deli played a card with a 6 to the right, and now Yevon has played a card with a 6 to the right, and that indicates that Deli's 6 to the right is not a secure card. But there's another step too, which is this is a card that could take Deli's 7 to the left, and that most likely tells us that 7 is not a problem for Yevon either. As I was saying, I don't like defending these lines in closed. I'm okay defending the J. I don't mind that. If people go in 1 or 3, we have a game to play. But I think the main difference between meeting a center play with a corner play or a side play is if you meet a center with a corner, you are most likely either going to face the slash, say you go in 9 and they go in 1, 1, 5, 9, a slash across the board, or the J, say you go 9 and they go 2, 2, 5, 9. That sort of makes a J flipped over, so 2, 5, 7 is the obvious kind of J shape. And so if you play corners against center starters, you are going to be defending slashes and Js. If you play in the side against a center starter, you will also face Js. Admittedly, a different version, right? The card in the side rather than the card in the corner will be yours. But you will also face Js. But the unique thing you face is lines. And I don't like facing lines. Now, I was thinking Deli should probably go in 7 or 9, and I think 7 makes a lot of sense. In that Yevon is saying, I can take 6s. I can take those 6s facing right. But we don't know if he can do it twice. And so forcing him to say go 9 here, when Deli may well have set himself up to have combo play in 4, right? Deli, because he slid in 8, has some combo potential to flip that back. Yevon now has to be at least a little careful. And if he goes in 9, he might give up 3. Now, there aren't necessarily that many lines where he has to have 3 at the end, but I think there are a few in the T that might result. Yevon's main choices here are 3 or 9, though 4 you'll sometimes see as well. So we have a Z or a T. Yevon is saying, I have 9, and I believe him. I think that move in 2 is saying, I have 9. I think Yevon does have 9. But Deli is saying I might combo back in 4, and maybe I'll combo back in 6. And if you don't have something in 6, you're in trouble. Even if you do have something in 6, if I then have another combo in 1 or 3, you have to combo that back as well. So because Deli slid, this can be a little trickier, which leads me to believe I don't really have a sense of Yevon's style, but it makes me think 3 is plausible. On the other hand, against 3, if Deli has set up 4, he has a pretty easy play in 6, because anything Yevon could capture from 9, Deli combos back in 4. Sometimes Yevon can just win by going 1 there, but I think that would not be the case the way this is played out. Alright, Yevon goes the third option, the tertiary option, goes in 4, capturing immediately, blocking that combo square. Now this gives Deli 1, right? This is a major structural concession. Deli grabs, gets 1, and he locks in 4, and he will probably take 2 as well and lead 6-4. On the other hand, because Yevon can now organize the endgame and can make sure he has good cards for the endgame, he might be really well set up here. I have quite often played 4 to force 1, knowing I could go, say, 3 locking in 2 and have a good sweeper at the end, and actually be like guaranteed a tie and have good winning chances. So we can't be like sure that he's actually in trouble. I think Deli should go in 1 here. You can also sometimes go 9, but when Yevon gets 1 there, your combos aren't really doing very much. And I think that's just like you're hoping for a tie, right? You go 9, he goes 1. You're hoping you play something in 6 he can't take. That also has to flip 5 to get you that tie. So I think you go 1 here. And I think 4 is a viable option, right? 3 and 9 are the main moves for a reason, but if you have sufficient sweepers, 4 is the most forcing move. 4 is the closest to playing this like an open game, which is not to say in an open game you go 4 more than you go 3 or 9. You still go 9 and 3 more often. But it is to say you're saying, I know I have these sweepers that sweep well against anything, or the stuff that faces the directional action. And so I'm willing to concede, more protected cards on the left end of the board. I get 7, you get 1 and 4, to make sure I have these sweepers. And also, Deli doesn't know which cards he'll need to be able to take, right? Deli doesn't yet know what Yevon's going to say, put in 9. And so Deli has to kind of figure out which cards do I want to keep that will give me the best chance of holding this game. Also, if Deli's best card to put in 1, combos, he might not want 5 to flip immediately. Because if he flips 5 immediately and Yevon goes 9, if Yevon has something in 3, and there's a pretty good chance Yevon has something good for 3, we did just see a capture there, but Yevon happily put out a 6 to the right. You don't want to lose, you don't want to have to block 3 last turn, and you don't want to give up 3 there, and you probably have to block it. That's really uncomfortable. All right, so Deli does go 1, and Yevon does go 9. Now, if Deli can combo 9 without flipping 5, that's great. If he flips 5 and combos 9, that's good. But if he flips 5 and just captures 9, he can lose this game. Specifically because it's, yeah, for obvious reasons. I think if you have something for 6, you probably do have to play 6 here. But it is like a little annoying for Deli he flipped 2, right? Having flipped 2, he is in more danger than he would be otherwise. Like, in a bunch of, depending on what Yevon has. But it does make it tricky, right? If 2 isn't flipped and he has a combo in 6, it's game over, basically. Yeah, so he plays the combo in 6. He has to risk it. I think this is right. I think you have to risk it. Now, we've seen 2 cards from Yevon that could capture 2 and could capture 8. So at this point, if we like hadn't seen any, then I would think his last card has to be able to capture there. Here, it is possible he has run out of power, but he does just win if he has the combo, and there's a decent chance he does. Well, that was really a scary game for Delhi. I think Yevon has to start 9. Delhi did a good job, pulling the trigger on 6, just going, this is my best chance. No, if he had gone 3, that would have been a tie, but he couldn't possibly win there. Delhi's other card, interesting, really interesting. So Delhi's other card was 6-3-6-7. Delhi had the same. I think I would have played 6-3-6-7. I realize it would have given Yevon the same at the end. And then he would have flipped a bunch more things. And Delhi would have, in fact, lost 6-4 there. So, really good call by Delhi. I would have, I don't think I would have made this call. But the 4 sticking out is much harder to combo. I would have figured, I think they have 2 through 3. So I think 2, 5, and 8 are going to combo no matter what. So I want to play something that is harder for them to take in 6. And Delhi instead did not assume they had that, which was correct, and instead played to minimize the odds they would gain it. And that got him the win. Interesting. Fundamentally, and I'm not sure. It sounds like he had 6-3-6-7 from what he sent. It's possible I'm misinterpreting. Interesting close game. Let's go clicking around, seeing what's happening in places. So yeah, Turds did advance over Vid. So Turds is in the semifinals. So our semifinals is Turds, Deagle, and oh, that's funny. So Delhi thought Same was on instead of P for his first moves. So my interpretation was almost exactly wrong. I thought he is more likely to play an aside with Same off. But in fact, he played an aside because he thought Same was on. Interesting. Interesting. So Delhi didn't have 4. But he had a really good chance to have 6 against anything Yevon would play in 9. 2 gaps are actually not that common, so there was a good chance Yevon wouldn't have 4 either. Yeah, very interesting game. All right. What's our second rule set? Oh, it's just 3 games on the same rule set. I did not understand. I should have paid more attention throughout this tournament. Okay, so Delhi wins game 1. It is best of 3. And now Delhi has first turn. So did Yevon have sufficient sweepers to go for this? I'm thinking about what else Yevon could have done on turn 5. Something like 4-7, 4-6, and 3, but then you give up 4. And if you play like 3-5-6-6 and 3, your 4-6-4-7 happens to have 4, but it's really bad in 1. So I guess the Z's were kind of unappealing. Like your 6-7-3-6 is pretty decent, though not really how you'd organize it by choice. And your T's were basically all going to end up how the game ended up. Yeah, weird spot turn 5. I'd have to look at the cards and look back. I'm trying to think about it in my head, but it is a little difficult to see at distance. So let's focus on this game. Deli goes for a corner starter. It is worth noting that fives cannot be retaken in a way that locks it in, right? This isn't TTN. There's no 5 plus 5 equals 10 plus 0. Anything that captures it will have to overpower it unless some other cards have been placed such that it can Samer plus. I think there's a decent chance Yevon has some way to lock in from 8, but or Deli does, but there's a decent chance this is just something that directs things decently and he can take. And also, like, look at this garbage card. We're playing level 5, right? What's the, like, average level 5 card? Like a 7-6-5-3 or something? And that's, like, not a particularly good one. Yeah, so this is interesting from Yevon, because he goes, I can flip this securely, and I know you can't be happy taking back in 4. Um, everyone's back. Yeah, so this is interesting because Yevon knows Deli can't recapture super comfortably from 4. On the other hand, if Deli was doing this as a directional thing, he's probably pretty happy to face the action. I was talking to Turds. We were watching a Seto versus Addy trade game, and I noticed that in a position kind of like this, though Addy didn't even capture, but a somewhat comparable position, Seto just went in 3, though Turd said he usually blocks 4 in these spots. Um, so I think there's some interesting choices. There's I can attack those later, just leave them alone, go in 3. But that's probably not appealing here because Yevon can just block 4. In open, I think the choice is between 4 and 9. And I think that's probably the choice here as well. But I think you probably just have to go 4. Um, if you go 9, you're sort of saying, I hope this is safe and you have a lot of stuff out there I can attack. But if they can take 9, it gets messy for you. Yeah, so Dully says, had a beast of a hand last time. 2-6-6-7, 2-4-7-7, 7-7-2-4, 6-3-6-7, 4-4-7-6. So that's 2-7-7-4-2s, 2-7-6-6s, and 7-6-4-4 is a very solid card. It is better than 7-6-5-3, which I was calling the average level 5 card. It's probably more like 7-6-4-4. It's probably about the average level 5 card. Level 5 is a very powerful level. So 6-5-5-3 is just so miserable on it when, like, a 7-6-5-2 like we see here is actually like a clearly below average level 5 card, and it's just better than, so much better than a 6-5-5-3. So much better. And 7-6-5-4s are clearly a level up from that. Alright, Deli does go 9. I think this is the secondary choice, and 4 is scary, because if you don't have a way to take in 4 that gives you play, you're just really scared they're going to combo off. I think stuff tends to kind of work itself out. I don't know how to say it, but, like, you go in 4, sometimes you just get comboed to hell and have no play, but, like, say you give up the combo in 5 and they go 5, then you go 5, 6, 4, 7, and 9, and I don't know. You lock some things in. There's stuff vulnerable to combos later. You have first turn. You'll get last turn. Um, it obviously heavily depends on what cards you have, but I think 4 should be played more often than 9. This is not to say 9 is wrong, but it is to say I don't know what cards are in his hand, so I can't judge based on the cards. But, like, in poker, there are sort of ranges of what you're supposed to do, right? If you, for instance, every time you get in a specific type of spot, you always bet half pot, then they get too much information from you betting half pot. Now, you balance it by betting half pot with some other hands, right? Um, and there are spots where you always should bet half pot, and there's enough other hands you'd be betting half pot with. They can't put you on anything specific, and it's just the right thing to do with that hand. But there are also spots where you need to do different things at different times, right? Where if you always do one thing, it's clearly exploitable. if you fold to every 3-bet unless you have aces, then they should just 3-bet you every hand, and whenever you don't fold, they know they're winning, right? Okay, so in closed, we need to have a range as well. And it's going to depend somewhat on our reads on our opponent, what we think they've told us, and also things we know about their style from other games. But even if that was a vacuum, it's going to depend on our hand. Our hand's going to vary things up. I like this move from Yevon, by the way. I think locking in 7 makes a lot of sense. Second turn now leads in lock-ins 1-0, and is very likely to be able to get a second lock-in shortly. So this is very much what I'd go for. Note everything facing up is a 5 facing up, so everything basically needs to be captured raw power, right? It can't be locked in by a plus wall. Now it could be locked in by a plus and 5, but things are hard to lock in with 5s facing out. So Yevon locked in the card he already had flipped, such that he doesn't have to overpower it, such that it's not susceptible to combo. Going in 4 seems fundamentally correct to me, and his goal is to set up a threat in 5. And it's tricky, because for Deli, if Deli blocks 5 and Yevon goes 6, it's a bit messy for Deli. I would favor Yevon at this point in the game. I think this intro has gone well for Yevon, unless Deli has some kind of dominant sweeper, If Deli has like a 4-7-6-5, I think that would be a really good card. Then you kind of chuck something in 5, Yevon goes 6, you chuck your other card in 3, and your 4-7-6-5 will get enough captures to get you the tire win, that kind of thing. But we don't know what cards he has, so our reads aren't. Your read should never be based on what if they have the perfect cards? It should be their hand is probably kind of messy, and what's the best option given that? I think this is a pretty wide open position. I think you can reasonably go in basically any square but 1. I really don't like 1 because there's a very solid chance Yevon has set up 5. And if Yevon can play in 5, like a 7-6-4-3 or whatever, that pluses there in a way you can't combo back, you are in so much trouble. And even if you can combo something back, or there's a chance to, you may not have the cards to do so. And even if you do, they may have combos back. All right, well, my analysis clearly proven very useful here. But I would not have gone in 1. And I would probably not have gone in 1 with 5-6-6-3 either, because that's a pretty decent sweeper for the top row. If you go in somewhere like 6 instead, and they go 5 and then you go 3, 5-6-6-3 will get you the tire better against anything but a 6 to the left from 2. And if they play a 7, you combo, you may well win. If they play a 4, you combo, you may well win. And you're tying against a 5-3, 2, or 1, and you're losing to exactly a 6. So I suspect I don't agree with this play. On the other hand, last game, Deli made a different move than I would have, and his move was better. His move was much better. And it also depends on what cards he has. So Yevon has 5, and he has 5 in a really interesting way. Low numbers facing out. This is really unlikely for Deli's hand to be able to do something with it. 7-5-3-6 kind of card would have the plus and 6, but most cards here, I guess 5-6-7-3 could have the plus and 2. I think there's some deck restrictions here, not strong deck restrictions, but some. This is pretty unlikely to be able to plus. This looks very good for Yevon. Yeah, Deli sends a message, just had to be a 2. So this is clearly something he has trouble playing against. This is looking better and better for Yevon. One thing Deli might think about doing is if you can go in 2 or 6, and they go in the other one, if you can combo their card, it almost certainly their card was overpowering the two, and you might flip everything. So I think one thing, some people would go in three here. I think three is not great unless you set stuff up, and then you give them a 50-50, where you win 50%, you lose 50%. I mean, that might be a good outcome from this position. But there's also an argument for just go in two or six and keep your card that can just combo the most numbers. Um, I think there's a case for that. This is definitely Yevon favored. My instinct is I don't like one, but again, I don't know what Deli's cards were. But I would have very likely played in any other square. So what I was saying about ranges was like the optimal player, say out of this L, um, in general should have some percentage of the time they play in each square. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. And maybe there's a square that's just fundamentally bad. Like I really don't like one. Um, or maybe like you never play moves in three or something. There's probably times when you should. But like if you never played moves in three, you're probably not giving up that much value. But there should be some percentage of the time you play in various squares. Um, and sometimes that should be zero. For instance, with cards in 7, 8, 9, how often should you play in 3? If you play in 3 0% of the time, are you really screwing up? Yeah, so this makes sense. Deli goes 6, Yevon goes 2, and the question is, does Deli have a card for there? 3, 5, 6, 6 from last game would work really well. But something, you give yourself the thing that has the most sweepers. 6, 3, 7, 4 was, if you played in 2 and kept 6, 3, 7, 4, that was only ever going to let you plus wall 6s, basically. So presumably he kept the better card. 1, 3, 7, 7. This also has 6s, but I guess it has 4s as well. Yeah. I don't think Yevon did anything wrong here. I think Yevon played a good game, got an advantage, and got a bit unlucky on second turn. 5, 6, 7, 3 is 5, 5, 7, 3. He wins, right? If it's 5, 4, 7, 3, he loses. If it's 5, 3, 7, 3, he wins. If it's 5, 2, or 1, 7, 3, he wins, right? Now, when you're up as much as he's up, because he's up 7, 3 there, now maybe his other card didn't capture in 2, but in general, you want to kind of stick out a random low number because that's less likely to be comboed. Sticking out at 6 is asking for it, but he probably didn't have another card. And this wins him the game if he's not comboed. So, yeah, I think I agree with everything Yevon did this game. And I probably disagree with a bit of what Deli did. I think instead of going in 1, I think maybe 6, 3, 7, 4 in 6 or in 5, keeping 1, 3, 7, 7 and 5, 6, 6, 3 to sweep the top row is probably the best path. But I think I would have gone in 5 or 6 instead of 1. I realize anywhere you go there, you are susceptible to combos that just put you down like 8 to 2 because none of them can lock in something in. So maybe his way's better. Without Samon, you're getting comboed a bit less, and your sweepers are so good. Yeah, I don't know. I think Yevon played a really good game here. Yeah. Which is not to say like he got robbed or anything. It's close. Stuff happens. Um, and I think Deli going in 6 there, probably the right move. There's a case for 2 as well, but he gave a trickier thing to capture in 1, and that would let him combo 3s extra. It's not a big deal. Yeah, I'm really probably he chose the right way here. All right. Nice games. Congrats to Deli, who advances to the inaugural KOS-MOS finals.